Let's have a sesh on managerial economies of scale. So managerial economies of scale, along with purchasing economies of scale and technical economies of scale, are these economies of scale that you must know, and you must know them well in order to fully analyse those questions. But firstly, let's just briefly look at the broad definition of economies of scale, which is just as output grows, your average cost per unit falls, it reduces. Now, managerial economies of scale, but in particular, work as so. So as the business grows in scale, as its output grows, the business looks to employ specialist managers. And these specialist managers will clearly be paid a wage, probably a substantial wage. It could be you have a specialist manager, a logistics specialist manager, a procurement specialist manager, a finance specialist manager. But despite this higher wage, this higher cost that's now included, theoretically, they are better able to organise your employees in the teams that they operate within. And that would lead to an increase in efficiency. So that's how it will work. But let's look at a crude example where we add one specialist manager to a growing business to show that it creates average cost per unit to fall. So here in this business, before we add the one specialist employee, we have total costs here of £2 million, and total units here, total units are 1 million units. So total costs divided by total units comes to your ACPU, which is your average cost per unit, and that would be £2, because 2 million divided by 1 million is £2. Now you add the specialist employee, that specialist manager in this case, and therefore you're paying them £100,000, 100 grand, so your total cost now will be £2 million plus the 100 grand, so 2.1 million. Total costs, £2.1 million. But he or she, this specialist manager, they will perhaps increase the efficiency within the business. Maybe you're a logistics specialist manager, they increase the efficiency, and that allows you to now make a marginal gain of 200,000 units. So you get now the 1 million you had before and this extra 200,000 units because of the specialist manager. So you now have the total units of 1.2 million. So total cost divided by total units, 2.1 million divided by 1.2 million units comes to an average cost per unit of £1.75. So clearly the average cost per unit has fallen, and we can see it on an AC diagram here. So your average cost per unit on this axis and your units on the other axis, and you can see firstly, we were at 1 million units of production, and that came to £2 per unit. We introduced the specialist manager, and that specialist manager allowed the units to increase to 1.2 million units, and that led to a fall in your average cost per unit to £1.75, which is fantastic for a business because it will make their costs reduce and make them more price competitive. I hope that helps, and I'll see you at the next sesh.